She replaced me with her college roommate and a subscription to Salesforce. Neither of them knew our biggest client's CEO only spoke through me. Tuesday, 10:15 a.m., glass-walled conference room on the third floor of Beaumont Logistics. The one with the mahogany table and the frosted panels that made everything inside look like a fishbowl. I'd sat in that room maybe 1,000 times over 16 years. Negotiated contracts in it. Saved accounts in it. Missed my daughter's high school volleyball semifinals because of a call that ran long in it. That Tuesday, Paige Beaumont didn't even look up from her MacBook when I walked in. She was 28 years old, Columbia Business School, 6 months as COO, a title her father handed her the way you'd hand a teenager the keys to a car they didn't earn. Before that, she'd spent 8 months at a meal kit startup in Brooklyn that folded before it shipped its second quarter. That was her resume. That was the person sitting across from me, tapping her manicured fingers on that aluminum case like she was composing a symphony instead of ending a career. Russell. She said it the way you'd say the name of a file you were about to drag to the recycling bin. Thanks for coming in. I didn't sit down. Not right away. I looked at the chair across from her, then at the woman sitting to her left. Someone I'd never seen before. Blonde, maybe 27. Smiled like she was posing for a company headshot. Paige gestured at her without looking up. This is Chloe Smith. She's going to be our new Agile Success Lead. She'll be taking over client-facing strategy going forward. Chloe Smith, her college roommate. I found that out later, but honestly, I could smell it in the room. The same perfume, the same practiced confidence, the same complete absence of anything resembling operational knowledge. We've been evaluating the client solutions vertical, Paige continued, still typing, still not looking at me. And frankly, Russell, your methods are unscalable. The handshake lunches, the personal visits. It's not data-driven. It's not agile. We need a system that can pivot, not a person. I sat down, folded my hands on the table. We're moving toward a data-driven synergy model. Chloe's built out a full Salesforce integration pipeline that'll centralize every touchpoint. Scalable, trackable, optimized. She said optimized the way some people say, amen. Like it was sacred. Then she looked up. First time. And what she said next, she said slowly, like she wanted me to feel every word. Russell, your old infrastructure. We need fresh perspectives and scalable energy, not legacy thinking and expensive lunches. Old infrastructure. Chloe shifted in her seat. The HR rep behind Paige, a young kid named Davis, couldn't have been older than 25, stood there holding a tablet like he was watching someone pull the pin on a grenade and didn't know which way to run. Your position is being eliminated effective today, Paige said. We're prepared to offer a standard severance. 2 weeks per year of service. It's generous. Generous. 32 weeks of pay for 16 years of my life. For the $430 million in annual revenue that flowed through this building because of relationships I maintained with my own hands, my own time, my own reputation. She slid a folder across the table. Termination paperwork. Pre-printed. My name already typed in the header. She'd had this ready. If you've ever had a boss or been in a situation like this, hit that like button and subscribe. Let me back up. My name is Russell Tate. I'm 47 years old. I spent 10 years in the United States Navy, Supply Corps, commissioned at 21, made lieutenant commander by 31. Operational logistics and procurement. That's a fancy way of saying I was the person who made sure everything got where it needed to be, when it needed to be there, in the right quantities, at the right cost. Jet fuel, spare rotors, medical supplies for 5,000 sailors. You learn real fast that systems don't run on software. They run on trust. I served aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt. That matters. It matters because of who else served on that ship. Arthur Mercer, former Navy captain, now CEO of Mercer Automotive, one of the largest Tier 1 parts suppliers in the Midwest. The man who would become Beaumont Logistics' single largest client. The man whose handshake was worth more than any contract ever printed. I met Arthur in the officers' mess in 2002. He was a captain. I was a junior lieutenant running supply chains for the carrier group. We didn't become friends over drinks or golf. We became friends over a procurement crisis during a deployment to the Persian Gulf. 72 hours of coordinating emergency resupply across 3 time zones with communications equipment that kept cutting out. Arthur watched me work that problem. Watched me not sleep, not eat, not complain. Watched me get it done. 6 years later, when I left the Navy at 31, I walked into Beaumont Logistics looking for a job. Frank Beaumont, Paige's father, hired me as a junior account coordinator. I didn't argue the title. I didn't negotiate. I showed up at 6:47 a.m. every morning, and I did the work. Within 2 years, I'd reorganized the regional dispatch routing system. Saved the company $1.2 million annually. Frank noticed. He moved me into client solutions. Then, in 2012, I did the thing that changed everything. Arthur Mercer's company had outgrown its logistics provider. They were shopping. 3 firms were in the running. Beaumont was the smallest. On paper, we had no business being in that room. But Arthur wasn't looking at paper. He was looking at me. I flew to Dayton, sat in Arthur's office. Same oak desk he still has. Smelled like old leather and black coffee. And I made the pitch. Not with slides. Not with projections. I laid out the routing plan on a legal pad. Drew it by hand. Showed him how I'd handle his parts distribution across 14 states with the same precision I'd used to resupply a carrier group. Arthur leaned back. Looked at me for a long time. "You're still the same kid from the Roosevelt," he said. "Just older, sir." He signed. The Mercer Automotive Master Service Agreement. $430 million in annual revenue. The anchor contract that turned Beaumont Logistics from a regional player into a national operation. Frank Beaumont nearly wept when I called him with the news. He gave me an engraved silver pen that night. I still have it in my desk drawer at home. Over the next 12 years, I managed that account personally. Every routing decision, every escalation call, every quarterly review in Arthur's office in Dayton, where we'd spend the first 20 minutes talking about the Navy and the last 40 talking about freight lanes. Arthur Mercer did not deal with account managers. He dealt with me. That was the arrangement. That was the understanding. I missed things for that account. I missed Emily's 8th grade graduation because a Mercer shipment got held at a border crossing in Detroit, and I had to drive there personally to sort the customs paperwork. My wife Sarah was alive then. She understood. She always understood. She'd pack my bag and leave a thermos of coffee by the door and say, "Go fix it, Russ." Sarah died 4 years ago. Breast cancer. Diagnosed in March. Gone by November. I worked through most of it because I didn't know how to stop. Because stopping meant sitting in that house, alone, with the silence. Emily was 15. She handled it better than I did. She's 19 now. Sophomore at Ohio State. Smart as her mother. After Sarah, the company became the only structure I had left. 16 years. I knew every client's name, their dispatcher's name, their dispatcher's kid's name. I knew which routes froze in January and which customs agents worked Saturdays. None of it was in Salesforce. None of it was in any system Paige Beaumont could download. It was in my head. And in the handshake I shared with Arthur Mercer. So when Paige slid that termination folder across the mahogany table at 10:15 a.m. on a Tuesday and told me I was old infrastructure, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't tell her about Section 8.4 of the Master Service Agreement, the personal liaison clause that Arthur Mercer himself had insisted on during the 2012 negotiation. The one that made the entire $430 million contract contingent on my direct oversight. The one that gave Mercer Automotive the right to terminate the agreement with 24 hours notice if I was removed from the account without Arthur's written approval. I didn't mention any of that. I looked at the folder. I looked at Chloe Smith and her eager smile. I looked at Davis, the HR kid, gripping his tablet like a life raft. Then I looked at Paige Beaumont. I understand perfectly, I said. That's your choice. I'll manage. I stood up, adjusted my tie, buttoned my jacket. I'll have my desk cleared by noon. And I walked out of that glass-walled fishbowl for the last time, past the rows of cubicles where people pretended not to watch, past Gary Miller's desk where he sat frozen with his coffee halfway to his mouth, past the framed photo in the lobby of Frank Beaumont shaking my hand the day we landed the Mercer contract. I didn't look back. The parking garage smelled like exhaust and wet concrete. I sat in my truck for exactly 4 minutes. Engine off. Hands on the wheel. Then I pulled out my phone and called Marcus Ellis. If you've ever had a boss who thought a software subscription could replace 16 years of trust, hit that like button and subscribe. Marcus picked up on the second ring. He always did. That was the thing about Marcus Ellis. 48 years old, former Navy JAG officer, now one of the sharpest contract law specialists in Central Ohio. We'd known each other since he was a newly minted lieutenant, sorting out procurement disputes on the Roosevelt. He'd gone to law school on the GI Bill, passed the bar on his first attempt, built a practice out of a 2-room office in Westerville that looked like nothing and won like clockwork. Russ, he said, not a question. He could hear it in the silence. They fired me. 10:15 this morning. Paige Beaumont. Involuntary termination. Position eliminated. 3 seconds of quiet. Did they cite cause? No. Standard severance offer. 2 weeks per year. Did you sign anything? No. Good. Come to my office. Bring nothing. Touch nothing they sent you. I drove straight there. Didn't go home first. Didn't stop for coffee. Marcus was waiting at his desk with the file already open. He'd kept a copy of the Mercer Automotive Master Service Agreement since 2012. Not because I'd asked him to, but because Marcus Ellis was the kind of lawyer who kept copies of everything that mattered. He'd reviewed the original contract language when Arthur's attorneys drafted the amendment. He'd been the one who told me to make sure it was notarized by a third party. He'd been the one who said the words I never forgot. File it properly. Make sure it's in the physical vault, not just the CRM. Digital summaries get edited. Paper doesn't. That was 2012. Now he sat across from me, reading glasses on, index finger tracing the page. Section 8.4, he said. Personal Liaison Clause. The continuation of this Master Service Agreement is contingent upon the direct oversight of Russell Tate, Director of Client Solutions, Beaumont Logistics. In the event that Mr. Tate is removed from the account, reassigned, or terminated without the prior written approval of Mercer Automotive's Chief Executive Officer, Mercer Automotive reserves the unilateral right to terminate this agreement with 24 hours written notice, citing breach of relationship integrity. He looked up. Signed by Frank Beaumont and Arthur Mercer, notarized by a third party on October 14, 2012. Amendment to the original MSA, incorporated by reference into every subsequent renewal. Is it still active? Every renewal since 2012 incorporates the original amendment by reference. Paige renewed the contract 8 months ago. She signed the renewal herself. The amendment language carries forward automatically. He took off his glasses. She never read it, did she? She reads Salesforce dashboards, not contracts. Then she just triggered a $430 million exit clause and doesn't know it yet. I sat there. The office was quiet. Old leather chair, the smell of coffee from a machine that hadn't been cleaned since the Bush administration. A framed photo on the wall of Marcus in his JAG uniform. What do I do? I asked. Not because I didn't know, because I wanted to hear him say it. You send one email to Arthur, 1 sentence. You tell him you're no longer with Beaumont Logistics. That's it. You don't advise him. You don't suggest action. You just state the fact. What he does with that information is his business. And if Paige calls, you don't answer. You're not their employee. You have no obligation to consult, advise, or assist. You owe them nothing. I drove home after that. The house was quiet. Rex met me at the door. Yellow lab, 8 years old, the only living thing in that house that didn't need me to explain anything. He just knew. Pressed his head against my knee and stayed there while I stood in the kitchen looking at nothing. I poured 3 fingers of bourbon. Not the daily drinker. The Blantons that Sarah had bought me for our 15th anniversary. I'd been saving it for something. I didn't know what. Maybe this. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. Opened my personal email. Not the Beaumont account. They'd already killed that. My personal Gmail that Arthur Mercer had on file, because some conversations don't go through company servers. I typed one sentence. Arthur, as of this morning, I am no longer with Beaumont Logistics. I hit send at 1:47 p.m. Then I closed the laptop, drank the bourbon, watched Rex sleep on the kitchen floor. That was Tuesday. Wednesday, nothing happened. At least nothing I could see. I took Rex for a walk, called Emily at Ohio State. She asked why I was home in the middle of the day. I told her I'd explain over the weekend. She said I sounded different, calmer, like I was actually present for once. Are you okay, Dad? Better than I've been in a while. Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. Text from Gary Miller. Something's wrong. Mercer account hasn't responded to 3 routing confirmations. Chloe sent 4 emails. No reply. Not even a read receipt. I didn't respond. Friday. Another text from Gary. Chloe tried calling Mercer's logistics coordinator directly. Got transferred to their legal department. She came back to her desk white as a sheet. Paige told her it was a software glitch. A software glitch. A $430 million relationship going dark, and Paige Beaumont called it a software glitch. That was the thing about people who'd never built anything real. They couldn't recognize the sound of something breaking because they'd never heard it hold. Day 7. The following Monday, Gary called instead of texting. His voice was low, break room voice, vending machine humming in the background. Mercer's trucks stopped showing up at the docks. 6 scheduled loads. All 6 canceled. No explanation. Dispatch is losing their minds. Paige called an all hands and told everyone it was a temporary scheduling realignment. Her exact words. Temporary scheduling realignment. I almost laughed. Russell, Gary said. What's happening? I can't say, Gary. People are scared. The Mercer account is 58% of our revenue. If that contract goes, I know what it is, Gary. Silence. You knew this would happen, he said. Not accusatory, just realizing. Take care of yourself, I said. That's all I can tell you. Day 9, Wednesday. 9 business days after I'd been fired in that glass-walled conference room. I was sitting in the parking lot of Rosie's Diner on Route 33, the one with the vinyl booths and the waitress who'd been there since the Clinton administration. Rain was hitting my windshield. Steady. Not hard. The kind of rain that doesn't stop. My phone lit up on the passenger seat. Paige Beaumont. Incoming call. I watched it ring, watched her name pulse on the screen. The phone buzzed against the vinyl like a trapped insect. 4 rings. 5, 6, voicemail. Then again, Paige Beaumont. Incoming call. And again, and again. Between 11 a.m. and 4:30 p.m., my phone registered 42 incoming calls. Paige Beaumont. Frank Beaumont. Paige Beaumont. A number I didn't recognize from Beaumont's main switchboard. Frank again. Paige again. Frank again. 42 calls. I didn't answer a single one. Because at 9:15 that morning, a certified letter had arrived at Beaumont Logistics headquarters. Return receipt requested. Sent from the legal department of Mercer Automotive. signed by Arthur Mercer himself. I know this because Marcus Ellis had a copy on his desk by noon. The letter was 3 paragraphs. Professional, cold. It cited Section 8.4 of the Master Service Agreement, the Personal Liaison Clause. It noted the removal of Russell Tate without prior written approval from Mercer Automotive's CEO. It invoked the right to terminate under breach of relationship integrity, effective immediately. $430 million in annual revenue. Gone. 1 page, 3 paragraphs. Arthur Mercer's signature at the bottom in black ink, steady as a ship's compass. My phone buzzed again on the passenger seat. Frank Beaumont, call number 43. I picked up the phone, looked at his name on the screen, thought about the framed photo in the lobby. Frank shaking my hand. The engraved silver pen. 16 years. I pressed the red button. Click. Then I went inside Rosie's Diner and ordered black coffee and a club sandwich. The waitress called me Han and refilled my cup without asking. The rain kept falling. The call came Thursday morning. Not from Paige, not from the switchboard. From Frank Beaumont's personal cell, the one he only used for family and emergencies. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a voicemail. I listened to it once, standing in my kitchen, Rex at my feet. Russell, it's Frank. I need you to come in, not as an employee, as a consultant. The board is meeting Friday at 9 a.m. I'm asking to be there. Please, bring your attorney if you want. Just be there. His voice sounded like a man who'd aged 10 years in 11 days. The confidence was gone. The paternalism was gone. What was left was a 68-year-old man watching the thing he'd spent 4 decades building crack down the middle because his daughter never bothered to read a contract. I called Marcus. I heard it, he said. He'd already been contacted by Beaumont's general counsel, a woman named Janet Crawford, who'd reportedly gone through an entire box of antacids since Wednesday morning. They want you in the room. They're not sure what they're asking for yet, but they know they need you there. What do you think? I think you walk in. You say what needs to be said, and you walk out on your terms, not theirs. Friday, 8:47 a.m. I pulled into the Beaumont Logistics parking garage. Same spot I'd parked in for 16 years. Someone had already taken it. A white BMW, Chloe Smith's probably. I parked 3 rows back. I wore the same suit I'd worn to Sarah's funeral. Navy blue. White shirt. The silver pen Arthur Mercer's competitor didn't know about tucked in my inside breast pocket. The one Frank Beaumont gave me the night we landed the contract. I don't know why I brought it. Maybe I did. Marcus met me at the elevator. Dark suit, leather briefcase that looked like it had survived 3 deployments because it had. He didn't say anything, just nodded. We rode up together. The boardroom was full. 8 board members seated around that 20-foot mahogany table. Frank Beaumont at the head, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Janet Crawford, the general counsel, standing near the window with a legal pad and the expression of someone waiting for a building inspection she already knew would fail. Gary Miller in the back row, arms crossed, watching everything. And Paige. She was seated to Frank's right, her usual spot. But something was different. The MacBook was closed. The manicured fingers weren't tapping. She was sitting very still. And when I walked through the door, her eyes locked on me with something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not the performative kind. Not the kind you rehearse in a mirror before a tough meeting. The real kind. The kind that lives in the back of your throat when you realize the thing you broke can't be glued back together. Marcus and I took the 2 empty chairs at the far end of the table. A folded placard sat in front of my seat, printed in block letters. Russell Tate, consultant. I sat down, placed my hands flat on the table, said nothing. Frank cleared his throat. He looked at me, then at the table, then at his daughter. I called this meeting because we have a situation that requires full board awareness. Janet. Janet Crawford stepped forward. She held a document I recognized immediately. Not because I could see the text, but because I knew the weight of it. The thickness. The cream-colored paper Arthur Mercer's legal team always used. 9 days ago, Janet said, Mercer Automotive formally terminated their master service agreement with Beaumont Logistics. The termination was executed under Section 8.4 of the 2012 MSA Amendment, the Personal Liaison Clause. She read it aloud, every word. The room was silent except for her voice and the hum of the HVAC system. The continuation of this master service agreement is contingent upon the direct oversight of Russell Tate. In the event that Mr. Tate is removed from the account, reassigned, or terminated without the prior written approval of Mercer Automotive's chief executive officer, Mercer Automotive reserves the unilateral right to terminate this agreement with 24 hours written notice, citing breach of relationship integrity. She set the document down. This clause was incorporated into every renewal since 2012, including the renewal signed 8 months ago by our current COO. Every head in the room turned to Paige. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That clause wasn't in the system. It wasn't in Salesforce. I reviewed every digital summary before The physical amendment was in the document vault on the second floor, Janet said. Quietly. The way a surgeon tells you the biopsy came back wrong. It was in the original MSA binder, folder 3, tabbed and highlighted. No one told me to check physical files. We're a digital-first company now. That's the whole point of the optimization. Paige. Frank's voice. One word. She stopped. The silence in that room weighed more than the mahogany table. Frank looked at me. His eyes were red-rimmed. Not from crying. From the kind of sleeplessness that comes when you realize your legacy is dissolving and your own blood poured the solvent. Russell, he said. What would it take to get Arthur back? I let the question sit. 3 seconds. 5. The board members shifted in their leather chairs. Marcus sat beside me, perfectly still. Arthur Mercer doesn't trust Salesforce, Frank, I said. He trusts me, and you let your daughter fire his trust. The words landed like a stone in still water. I watched the ripple cross every face at that table. Gary Miller in the back row closed his eyes and nodded once. Paige stood up. Her chair scraped against the hardwood. You can't just... I was optimizing. I was doing what any modern COO would do. You can't hold this company hostage because of some handshake deal from 2012. Sit down, Paige. Frank again. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. She sat. Marcus opened his briefcase. He slid a single document across the table to Janet Crawford. She picked it up. Read it. Her face didn't change, but her hand tightened on the page. This is a summary of unpaid override commissions owed to Mr. Tate, Marcus said. Per his original compensation agreement, Mr. Tate is entitled to a 0.5% override on the Mercer account. That's $2.15 million annually. The final year remains unpaid. Janet set the paper down without a word. Additionally, Marcus continued, my client has been in communication with Mercer Automotive regarding a standing offer of employment. Mr. Tate has no interest in returning to Beaumont Logistics in any capacity. Frank's face drained of color. The same face that had beamed in that lobby photograph. The same man who'd nearly wept when I called him from Dayton in 2012. Russell, he said. His voice cracked on the second syllable. I let family cloud my business judgment. I'm sorry. I nodded. Once. That was enough. I want to do this right, Frank. The settlement for the unpaid commission. Clean. No counterclaims. No non-compete enforcement. And a letter of reference that reflects 16 years of what I actually did here. Frank looked at Janet. Janet nodded. And Paige, one of the board members asked, a man named Whitfield, 63, had been on the board since before I joined. That's not my decision, I said. That's yours. The vote took 4 minutes. 8-0. Unanimous. Removal of Paige Beaumont as Chief Operating Officer. Effective immediately. Beaumont Logistics would enter operational restructuring under a newly appointed interim COO, selected by the board. Paige didn't scream. She didn't cry. She sat in that chair and stared at the closed MacBook in front of her, like it had betrayed her. Like the algorithms should have warned her. Like the dashboards should have shown a red flag somewhere between fire the man who built everything and lose $430 million. Security arrived. The same security guard, a man named Patterson, who'd walked me to my truck 11 days earlier, appeared in the doorway. "Ms. Beaumont," he said, "I'll walk you out." She stood, looked at her father. He didn't look back. She walked out of the boardroom. Her heels clicked on the hallway tile. Getting quieter, then nothing. The settlement cleared in 19 days. $2.15 million. Clean wire transfer. No counterclaims. No non-compete. The letter of reference was 2 pages long, signed by Frank Beaumont personally. I never framed it. I put it in a drawer next to the silver pen. 3 months later, Beaumont Logistics was still hemorrhaging. The Mercer contract had been 58% of their annual revenue, and you don't replace $430 million with a Salesforce subscription and a college roommate. They lost 2 more mid-tier clients within 6 weeks. Companies that had stayed because of relationships I'd maintained. Clients follow account managers they trust. Always have, always will. I started at Mercer Automotive on a Monday, Director of Vendor Strategy, $140,000 more than I'd made at Beaumont. Arthur Mercer met me at the front door of the Dayton office himself. Shook my hand in the parking lot. Same grip as 2002. "Welcome aboard, Russ." "Glad to be here, sir." Drop the sir. You outrank me in the ways that matter. That was it. No champagne. No LinkedIn post. No company-wide email about exciting changes. Just a handshake and a desk and the smell of old leather and black coffee. Emily drove down from Columbus that weekend. We sat on the back deck. Rex sprawled across the boards between us, tail thumping every time one of us moved. The sun was going down behind the tree line. Orange and gold. The kind of light that makes everything look like it's been forgiven. "You seem different, Dad," she said. "Like actually different. Not just saying you're fine different." "I am different." "Good different?" I looked at her, 19 years old, her mother's eyes. Her mother's way of asking the question that matters instead of the question that's easy. "Yeah, Em. Good different." She leaned her head on my shoulder. Rex sighed the way only labs sigh, deep, whole body, like the weight of the world just rolled off his back. I sat there. Back deck. Bourbon on the railing. My daughter beside me. My dog at my feet. The sunset doing what sunsets do. Proving that things end, and that endings can be the most honest part of the whole story. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It arrives quietly, with calm hands and steady resolve. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and ring that notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.